said policy decisions. You can go one of two ways, I suppose. You can take as articles of faith whatever pronouncements emanate from the Centers for Control, or you can follow the science and data. Because the science and data is becoming increasingly troublesome for the lockdown enthusiasts. Thomas Massey, he's a congressman from Kentucky. He follows the science and data when it comes to whether or not to get vaccinated as somebody who has recovered from a COVID infection. He had this entertaining exchange with a reporter.
Number one, you didn't answer whether or not you've been vaccinated.
Well, first of all, it's none of your business, but I'm going to tell you. I'm not vaccinated, and until there's some science, by the way, I have a master's of science degree from MIT. I'm not a virologist, but I can read data. Everybody just needs to read, and don't put your head in the sand. Look at the data. I'm not going to get the vaccine until there's data that shows that it will improve upon the immunity that's been conferred to me as a result of a natural infection that I had.
Do you know what T-cell immunity is, little reporter girl? New report from Harvard, Brown University, the Gates Foundation, data from those institutions, and this is really ironic, show dramatically different job market recovery for high wage versus middle wage versus low wage workers. Oh, really? What a surprise. Oh, by the way, of course, the luminaries that lord over Harvard and Brown and the Gates Foundation all supported the lockdown policies that generated these disparities. But okay, between January of 2020 and March of this year, Americans earning above 60 grand observed a 2.4% increase in employment. Meanwhile, workers earning below 60 grand saw a 4.5% decrease.
Of course.
Workers earning below $27,000 saw a 24% decrease. So that's significant. And of course, this is papered over by, well, that's okay. We're just going to give you transfer payments. You get a transfer payment. You get a transfer payment. We're just going to incentivize you to be on the sidelines. So the middle and lower income workers fare the worst, and that will become more and more evident as those transfer payments run out as we move into the fall. For more on the running discussion of COVID for those COVIDians who refuse to move beyond the pandemic, we're pleased to be joined by Bret Baier, Fox News anchor, best-selling author of 3 Days at the Brink, FDR's Daring Gamble to Win WW2. Bret, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
You know, it is interesting because usually with the federal government, it's tough to argue against something concrete with an abstraction. And that's often the place conservatives find themselves in when they're arguing against spend versus a left person on the left who is arguing for, spending these specific dollars on this specific program to confer this specific benefit. But it seems to me, as we're assessing the impact of the decisions that were made over the last year, that's a bit reversed. And the data out of Harvard and Brown and the Gates Foundation speak to that, as does a lot of the science per Representative Massey's rejoinder to that reporter.
Yeah, today we're going to hear from President Biden at about 1:15 your time about the vaccine efforts and where COVID is, and don't know if he's going to take any questions or not, but they're going to lay out, what they see, largely the success because of the vaccine. The science part is really, fascinating, and more troubling, I think, is the economic part. I mean, the inflation going up, the jobs not being filled, the companies saying we really need more help as far as actual workers. That's a big problem. Today, Jared Bernstein, economic policy advisor for President Biden, said that he is now more concerned, his words, about inflation. Well, there you go. I mean, people have been saying that for a long time.
Yeah, but if you keep printing money, eventually a loaf of bread's going to be $35.
Yeah, you're going to eventually it all catches up, right? And when the Federal Reserve, which had said it's not going to raise rates, suddenly says, you know what, we may have to raise rates coming in the next year and a half, definitely. that starts to send a signal, and you're already seeing some prices kind of creep up everywhere.
Well, right, and we're not Weimar Republic quite yet, but the printing money is one piece of it. The other piece of it, and this is again a Wall Street Journal piece about the lackluster performance of the SBA, the Small Business Administration, and the frustrations that small business owner operators have had with the loans and so forth. A survey, nearly 1/3 of small employers, who represent about half of all employment in this country, 1/3 say it will take them more than 6 months to recover from the pandemic, according to a Census Bureau survey of those businesses. So the other thing is it's taking longer than best case scenario in terms of flipping the switch and saying, okay, everybody can go back to work again. Well, it's just not that easy, and a lot of businesses are not situated to have that sort of rapid response, if you will, and they're dealing still with the fallout from sort of bungled loan programs at SBA and with the federal government, and so the capacity isn't coming back online as fast as one would otherwise like.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that the long-term impact of lockdowns is going to be felt for some time. And I think that we're going to look back and analyze, what we did right and what we did wrong. And lockdown scenario, if you could put the elderly and the vulnerable in a quarantine situation and everybody else kept on working, it might be a different scenario. I think the next pandemic, hopefully we don't have one, we learn from the last.
Yeah, but there's this big push, if you either don't get your kids, if you don't get your kids vaccinated, the Delta variant is going to come and get you.
And you can't win a scholarship or $1 million or some signature whiskey or something, right?
Yeah. So variants, are now the story of the day. But in reality, the numbers just aren't there. If you talk to all the experts, yes, they're raising concerns about it. One, they are dealt with by the vaccine, so they, as we vaccinate millions and millions of people, the places it can go is fairly small. And number two, kids have not seen tremendous illness from it. They've had the infections, but they have not been hospitalized or died.
Are we seeing, on another note, are we seeing Joe Manchin starting to be worn down by the left when it comes to federalizing elections or blowing up the filibuster?
I don't think blowing up the filibuster, but he's trying to, I think, come to some compromise on this election bill, which, interestingly enough, in large part, looks similar to the Georgia law that was boycotted by Stacey Abrams and others, and the reason Major League Baseball left the All-Star game out of Atlanta. The compromise bill that Stacey Abrams has agreed to also has voter ID, the dreadful voter ID. And, it's just interesting. The Manchin's trying to find some common ground here, but I don't think he's moving off of protecting the filibuster. Even if he did, there are other senators behind him that don't want to. Christensen, Maggie Hassan, John Warner.
Right. But I just wonder if they would go to some sort of quote unquote middle position too, where he expressed in this private call that maybe moving it from a 60 vote rule to a 55 vote rule is something we should consider.
Yeah, I think he's throwing things against the wall to take some of the pressure off. And it's like a fire torch. Every time he turns around, some progressive is saying he's the devil. So I think you've got he doesn't really have a lot to worry about electorally in West Virginia when it comes to the left.
One thing that was interesting, too, about Georgia, and you're talking about how Manchin's proposal mirrors a lot of what's in that Georgia law. Nate Cohn over at 538. One fun anecdote, the vaunted cost of voting index, which initially ranked Georgia as the 49th toughest state to vote in, revised Georgia's ranking to 25th, the largest shift down of any state in their revision. So it's sort of, where does Georgia go to get its All-Star game back?
Yeah. And, those companies that Coca-Cola, Delta, are they feeling okay about that now? I think, listen, read between the lines is the lesson of that one. And I think that we're going to be fighting this. Chuck Schumer's going to bring it up Tuesday for a vote, but I just don't think that they're going to have the numbers.
He is Bret Baier, Fox News anchor, #1 best-selling author of 3 Days at the Brink, FDR's Daring Gamble
guys,
to Win World War II.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
And happy
One
Father's
more
Day,
thing.
by the way.
Yes, one more thing.
Happy Father's Day.
All right.
And as you're getting ready for Father's Day, the next book is coming out October. It's called To Rescue the Republic, Ulysses S. Grant, The Fragile Union, and the Crisis of 1876. Comes out October, and you can pre-order the book now, BretBaier.com or wherever you buy books.
Okay, To Rescue the Republic comes out in October. It's Ulysses S. Grant, and To Rescue the Republic, pre-order. All right, very good. So get 3 Days at the Brink for Dad, and then pre-order To Rescue the Republic, also for Dad.
Your gift is coming, Dad, in October.
Well, you can get him the
Right,
3
you
Days
can
at
get
the
him the
Brink
free
now.
voucher.
Yeah, it's a voucher.
It's coming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
a coupon. Yeah, there you go.
All right, very good. All right, Bret Baier, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Are you aware that AmericanEagle.com has been designing websites since the internet started? Do you know they've helped companies large and small achieve results that they themselves thought impossible? Today, a well-designed website is an art form. There are no cookie-cutter solutions. At AmericanEagle.com, they are proud to design and develop a website that fits their client's business. Their experience shows that a well-designed website with the client's business at the forefront will bring an excellent return on their investment. Clients, from startups to medium and large businesses, have come to rely on them for a full line of website services.